Hello there, my lovelies. How's it going? My name's Boomy, and you're watching my channel, Boomy Reactions. Now today, guys, I got a treat for all you history buffs out there, myself included, obviously. So today's video, we've got another video from Jacked History. I love Jack's videos. I love his rants. I love a good rant. He is so unbelievably funny. And the videos are so well researched as well. I love how he throws in his personal opinion as well with a rant. So I am very much enjoying these videos. So today's video has been requested by one of my wonderful patrons. This is from Joe Crazy. Now Joe Crazy says, here's a video on one of America's most well-known traitors. Now, I cheated because I've seen the thumbnail, but I know, before I've even seen that, I know which traitor in particular that we are referring to. This is Benedict Arnold. Now, as a Brit, I know British history. A lot of Brits didn't go to school and learn an awful lot about American history. I was particularly fortunate because this was one of my GCSE modules in high school. So I did actually get to learn quite a lot about American history, and I still have a very invested interest in it. It's very, very interesting, very exciting. But that's not the same for an awful lot of Brits. You know, it's not common to have that in your history lessons in high school. So not everyone, which is a shame because it's very interesting, like I say. So I'm aware of who this individual is. The most notorious traitor in all of American history, and arguably say throughout history in general. So this is one of the most skilled, would you say, war generals during the American Revolution. And would you say also that he was one of George Washington's maybe most trusted generals? Is that fair to say, guys, for our viewers from the US, or any viewers that are more knowledgeable about this than me? So I can't remember the names of the exact battles. You'll have to forgive me, guys. So I can't remember which battles in particular that it was. He ended up quite grievously wounded, not too grievously, obviously, because he lived. So a wounded Benedict Arnold decided to betray George Washington and the Continental Army and fight for the British instead. Okay, so that's the extent of my knowledge on who this character is. And obviously watching an awful lot of American TV growing up, we hear the phrase, or, you know, the insult of being a Benedict Arnold, you know, oh, you turncoat, you're an absolute traitor. It's not a pleasant thing to be called. So anyway, that's my understanding of who this historical figure is. Probably one of the most detestable historical figures out there. Anyway, I've done an awful lot of talking. Let's get on with the video. You know, I'm like a chatter. And guys, if you're enjoying these reactions, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. Thank you so much, my lovelies. If you're interested, I have a Buy Me a Coffee account, and that link is over here.
My name is Jack Mandeville, and
Hello,
this
Jack.
is Jacked History. Have you ever had a coworker who was really good at his or her job, but also a really toxic person, and no matter how good they are at their job, their existence brought down the overall morale of the workplace?
There's always one. Hopefully that's not me in my workplace. The little face he's got on the cuff, is that Wilson from the Tom Hanks film? Is it Castaway? Wilson. What is it if it isn't?
It's kind of a tale as old as time.
Yes.
Like one of those people who have one of the best salaries in the company and are given a ridiculous amount of leeway, yet they still find an excuse to constantly bitch and complain and get into it with others. Everybody is walking on eggshells around this person, just hoping they might follow through with their constant threats to quit, or at the very least hoping the bosses will choose you and your coworkers over this person who is grinding everybody down on a daily basis.
Yeah, or, you know, inevitably just get so fed up of listening to their pessimistic rubbish that they just say, you know what, just go. There's the door.
Then, when that person finally quits to go do the same thing for the same amount of money at a different company, everyone breathes a collective sigh of relief. Like, You're probably going to have to do more work for a while because of their absence,
but that's okay.
You're perfectly okay with it because at least you don't have to encounter their complaining and unnecessary work politicking anymore.
Yeah, we all know.
Like I said, a tale as old as time. Yeah. But what if that scenario happened not at a normal company, but in the middle of a life and death revolution where everything was on the line?
In history. Yeah.
Today, we're talking about the most famous American turncoat of all time. Boo. A name that is synonymous with betrayal in American English. Boo. If you're from the United States, you already know who I'm gonna say. Yeah. Benedict Arnold. Yeah. The funny thing is, if you're British, you probably don't know who the F that guy is.
Yeah, that's fair. I think a lot of people, I think we've got a general idea. He betrayed, I think a lot of Brits would probably assume this is a large-scale traitor, a turncoat on, not nice, gone against his morals, turned on someone very important. I think a fair few Brits might be aware that it was George Washington that he betrayed. I wouldn't like to hazard a guess as to how many. Maybe 30%, 40%.
Which is hilarious because it clearly highlights how much of a miscalculation the guy made by switching sides from the colonial army to the British army. He lives as the greatest villain in American history when the guy could have been one of our heroes.
Yeah.
And he lives as a nobody in British history. They don't.
Oh, now you've put it that way, Jack. Yeah, maybe it's good that a lot of Brits don't remember him specifically or what he did. Don't want him to live in infamy. We just don't want to remember him at all.
Even think about him at all. He doesn't exist to them.
Oh, that's classic.
Okay, this is my impression of an American and an English person being asked about Benedict Arnold.
Okay, go on.
Okay, hey, American, what's going on? What are your thoughts on Benedict Arnold? What did you just say? Don't you ever bring up that name around me or my family again, or I will find where you live and I will hunt you. Okay. Hey, English person. Hey, what do you think about Benedict Arnold?
Who?
Who? Benedict Arnold. Oh, Benedict Cumberbatch, the actor. Oh, we love him.
We do love Benedict Cumberbatch. Or Eggs Benedict, that's the other one. It's Eggs Benedict, named after Benedict Arnold. Or which Benedict was that named after? I have more association with Eggs Benedict. Oh, Benedict Cumberbatch with the name,
No, Benedict Arnold, the American from 250 years ago. Well, kind of American/Englishman, I guess. I don't know. You want some shepherd's pie? I made some shepherd's pie.
Let's jump into it. Benedict Arnold was born into, as close as one could be, to an aristocratic New England family. His great-grandfather, also named Benedict Arnold, was one of the founders of the Rhode Island colony. I did a previous episode where I covered Rhode Island's origins. Check it out if you have the time to kill.
Okay.
Rhode Island is low-key an insane place in its history. Though well-to-do for a good deal of his youth, Arnold's family's fortunes eventually depleted during his teenage years as his father had developed an unhealthy relationship with the bottle. And the only reason Arnold was able to seize any opportunities with no money was his mother's family's connections.
Was it the British? Was it on his dad's side? We do drink a lot. Yeah. Maybe it's genetic.
Then she died, leaving Arnold's father to go even harder on the booze and ruining the family's once great life.
Great.
We need to make note that this is a time frame when we can trace the beginning of Benedict Arnold's insecurities about money. Insecurities that would impact his decision-making for the rest of his life.
Oh.
Then came the French and Indian War, aka the 7 Years' War, aka the world's first true world war, aka the war that a young George Washington started, as covered in a previous episode. Though Arnold was young and only played a minor role in it, its aftermath would lead Arnold and other American-born men of his generation down the path of revolution against the British. By his early 20s, Arnold was making a killing as part of the New England merchant class, sailing all over modern America and Canadian coasts and into places like French-owned Quebec, places he became very familiar with. And as discussed in my previous episode about the French and Indian Wars, then came the Sugar Act of 1764 and the Stamp Act of 1765. Simply put, that global conflict that was started by a young, eager American military officer working for the British, George Washington, had put the kingdom in a bad financial situation. They felt it was only fair that the American colonies pay their due in taxes. The colonials, on the other hand, were like, yeah, how are you going to tax us if we don't even have a vote in the matter all the way back there in London?
Yeah, you have no representation, so.
And let's not beat around the bush here. We need to be honest with ourselves. For all the romantic notions of independence we learned about growing up in American schools, these Americans' anger about British rule boiled down to money. It was primarily the merchant and southern high-end farming classes who were vocally opposed to the thing because it hurt their bottom line.
Notice that? Is that the British force tea? We still like tea. Yes, it was, originally always to do with money. Everything gravitates around money, doesn't it? But it's also the principle.
Your average bum farmer or worker wasn't really affected by it. Arnold's involvement in early revolutionary rhetoric and defiance of these taxes boiled down to the fact that he was already becoming financially strained on his own, and the taxes were just one more contributing factor to his mounting debt.
Yes, but again, I know say it's the principle, it's what it represents, doesn't it? Why should you be liable for tax when you have no vote? You're not represented in the House of Commons, back all the way across the pond in the UK.
Again, the guy had some trauma when it came to money. So the Boston Massacre happens, and he's one of the first New England men to join the growing American Revolution.
Okay.
1775 is basically Benedict Arnold's origin story. This is where he goes from merchant to absolute chaos agent of the early revolution. As soon as the battles of Lexington and Concord happened, he was looking to get in on the action. He raised a company of militia in Connecticut and moved right for Boston. By the time he's getting there, he's like, hey, in all my travels around this country, I noticed that Fort Ticonderoga up there in northern New York is poorly guarded and has a bunch of weapons and cannons we could snatch. How about you let me go waltz up there and grab them? And his superiors were like, yeah, Benedict boy, have at it.
Benedict
so
boy.
He gets up there and runs into Ethan Allen and his Green Mountain Boys, who were already planning to do the same thing. This is where you start seeing the early signs that Arnold didn't play well with others. While the capture of Ticonderoga was a success, where Arnold and Allen worked with each other, Arnold developed some bitter feelings of being sidelined and Allen getting more credit. Arnold proceeds to go out on his own and capture more forts, just Leroy Jenkinsing himself around British territory.
Leroy Jenkins!
And of course, getting into it with other officers. At one point, he resigned his commission in the Massachusetts militia after a dispute with another officer over who was in charge. Plus, while the guy is heading home, he finds out his wife died. Yikes.
I mean, gosh, trauma does follow him around, doesn't it, really? From the early days, we can see Benedict Arnold. He strikes me as quite an angry young man. He doesn't like being told what to do. Very much a chip on his shoulder over finances. He's had an awful upbringing if his dad is an alcoholic and his mum passed away during his adolescence, was it? And he's looking for any opportunity to join in a war, to join in a battle, an uprising. It's like he's waiting for it to happen. I know the atmosphere at the time probably would have felt like a powdered keg, like something is happening, it's building, the masses are getting angrier. But just all of those things combined, he strikes me as quite an angry young gentleman.
Jobless and wifeless in the middle of the revolution.
Yeah.
But it was soon after that he received a commission as a colonel in the actual Continental Army, after convincing none other than George Washington that he could successfully take the British and former French stronghold of Quebec. Arnold moved with 1,100 men in one of the most brutal marches in American history through thick Canadian wilderness where a quarter of his men dropped out. By the time he got there, he linked up with General Richard Montgomery before unsuccessfully assaulting the city, where Montgomery got killed and Arnold was badly wounded in his leg. Also, it should be mentioned the two other young officers in Quebec who would go on to become alleged and proven traitors.
Now, one of the questions, I don't think I asked this earlier, one of the questions I've always had when talking about Benedict Arnold in particular, what drove him to betray George Washington if he was one of his most skilled war generals, most trusted, maybe with a, I imagine at this point they're probably quite friendly. What drove him? What drove him to betray him? I'm sure Jack's going to tell us. It's always been one of those questions in the back of my head.
They were Aaron Burr and James Wilkinson, who I both covered in detail in a previous 40-minute episode. And speaking of Wilkinson, I know Arnold's name is the name in American history that's most associated with deception and being a turncoat.
Yes.
But this absolute piece of shit Wilkinson was way worse than Benedict Arnold.
There's someone worse than Benedict Arnold. Why don't we remember? Well, why don't I know his name, but I know Benedict Arnold's name then?
When it came to the betraying his country thing. Like he was the Usain Bolt of traitors, where he comes in first by a mile and everybody else is just a distant runner-up. That's for a different episode. Also, can you imagine if Montgomery and Arnold would have actually pulled off the capture of Quebec? That would likely mean that we'd literally have 51 states in the United States, and one of them would be called the state of Quebec. Just millions of French motherfuckers up there drowning in hot brown gravy and maple syrup, saying shit like, "I am proud to be from the United States of America, ha ha ha! I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, ha ha ha! Oh, Poutine, s'il te plaît."
I goddamn love Poutine.
Anywho, long story short, Arnold was quickly promoted to Brigadier General after Quebec and continued to show daring combat initiative in 1776. Even his losses looked good on him. And he had friends in high places.
He had quite aggressive tactics, didn't he? He was quite bold, actually.
George Washington liked him, for example. But for all of his friends in high places, he made enemies at a much quicker level.
Is that just purely because he doesn't play nicely with the other boys, with the other generals? Is that all that is? So he's got quite an abrasive personality at times.
Officers he couldn't get along with.
Yes.
Members of the Continental Congress he couldn't get along with.
Angry,
and by that point, he was spinning himself into a vicious cycle where he thought he wasn't getting promoted fast enough based on his accomplishments. So he was taking it out on the people who had the ability to promote him.
Has this also got ties to finances? Like, he's constantly pursuing promotions, internal promotions within the Continental Army because he wants a higher paying job? No.
By 1777, Arnold was running defensive operations around New England, an extremely important job. And it was in the early part of that year that he learned he had been passed over for promotion by Congress for the rank of Major General, further infuriating the ego-driven Arnold. And once again, Arnold was threatening to resign his commission. Even old George Washington went to bat for Arnold in front of Congress. I would deduce that Washington had some sympathy for him.
Right.
Let's not forget that a contributing factor to Washington joining the revolutionary cause was his own frustrations about his promotions in the British Army.
Oh. Well, there you go. You got a sympathetic ear. I was going to say, at this point, are they friendly? Are they acquaintances? Do they know each other? Or is this literally just another general within the same army that, you know, he can just empathize with because similar kind of backgrounds? Or
here you have this guy that was literally responsible for starting this 7-year world war and who had served with distinction in that war and after in a British uniform. But the military politicking of the day wouldn't favor an American-born soldier over his British counterparts. It was like, yeah, that Washington guy is shit hot.
I mean, to be fair, within the British military as well, your ranking was very much tied to your station, you know, your birthright. Were you born into an almost aristocratic family, in which case you would just have titles thrown at you and you just escalate higher and higher and higher. You know.
He's a farmer from
So
Virginia.
Nothing.
Bob over here he's a lord. Wrong. He's like the fourth cousin of the king.
Yes,
we can't be making some American a general. We have to promote the Lord. Back on track.
Isn't it?
By the summer of 1777, Arnold had finally become a major general, and once again was trying to resign his commission over perceived slights.
You threaten this too often, Benedict. And people are just going to stop taking you seriously. Right, I quit.
And once again, Washington refused to allow him to do so and was desperately trying to please him. By the fall of 1777, Arnold was going hard at both battles of Saratoga, where he once again was wounded in service to his country. And in those battles, his tensions with General Horatio Gates were escalating into flat-out yelling matches and Arnold refusing to follow orders. I bet every single one of you watching this at this moment are thinking about the person in your workplace that's a Benedict Arnold. The person that's good at their job but is a massive fucking headache around the office. And it's almost not worth it for them to be there. By July of 1778, Washington had appointed Arnold to be the military commander of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which was the capital of the country at that point. It was a dream job. And
I gotta say that's you know, you're pretty high up there. That's a pretty good job. Is he gonna threaten to quit because he's passed over for something else?
Was going to end up being Benedict Arnold's ultimate undoing. You see, though Philadelphia was the capital and one of the birthplaces of the American Revolution, it doesn't mean every American there was on board with the revolution.
No.
In fact, the sentiments between loyalists and patriots in that city were deeply divided, especially in high society. Americans tend to forget that our revolution wasn't some united front of patriots taking on the British. Philadelphia was very much a place where you could feel the tension in the air about loyalties, like having to pick between Israel or Palestine. No matter.
I think it varied state by state at that point, didn't it? But in a lot of states, it was very divided. Would you go as far as to say it? At some points, it became almost like brother versus brother. I mean, maybe not that far, but yeah, a very divided nation in most parts.
Where you land on the matter, there's going to be a substantial portion of the population who hate you for picking the wrong side.
Yeah.
Philly needed a person in charge who was diplomatic and had patience. Benedict Arnold was the opposite
not that
of that.
person. No.
Things got weird real fast.
Things got weird.
Arnold goes from mud-covered war dog to hosting lavish parties, driving around in expensive carriages, and living way above his means. And everyone notices. The same guy who was starving in the Maine wilderness a couple years earlier is now basically acting like, yeah, I almost died for America, so now I'd like a VIP section in bottle service. Enter Peggy Shippen. The widowed Arnold married Peggy in 1779.
Well, you know that she's fancy and comes from money because of how high that hairdo is. Oh la la. Very French.
A young and wealthy gal from a politically connected family. More specifically, a loyalist family. Right. That means she grew up around pro-British elites and had connections to British officers, including a smooth-talking British intelligence officer named John Andre.
That's the officer that Benedict was under, is that right?
Now Arnold isn't just partying, he's socializing in circles that don't exactly hate the British. Along with some other American loyalists in on the conversation, including Benjamin Franklin's own son, a relationship that never recovered as a result of being on two sides of the revolution. Andre and...
maybe it was a case in some families, it was very much like brother versus brother, son versus father. Very divided.
And Arnold began a secret correspondence, often using Peggy as an intermediary. I almost had that. We're going to push through. I'm not going back and doing that entire fucking pair, often using Peggy as an intermediary. We're not going back. I don't care if people think I'm a dumbass.
I'm happy he left that in. I stutter on my words all the time.
Arnold starts flirting with traitorous behavior by passing intelligence to Andre. Troop sizes, troop locations, supply locations. Then he really starts testing the waters when he starts negotiating terms with Andre. And then it escalated. Behind the scenes, Arnold is spiraling. He's deep in debt, Congress is still refusing to reimburse him properly, and he's accused of using his position for personal gain, which he absolutely was. Eventually, he's dragged into a court-martial. And while the punishment is light, the damage is catastrophic.
Odd, maybe not so odd, that considering he's got such a complicated relationship with finances growing up, watching his father drink himself and his finances, money into oblivion, you'd think he'd go the opposite way, but it kind of seems like he's avoided alcohol maybe, but he's still racking up debt, living way beyond his means. And maybe that's what all that kind of ambition hungry for promotions, maybe that was to fund all of the debt that he kept getting himself into.
Arnold doesn't hear, "You're cleared of wrongdoing." He hears, "We don't trust you."
I challenge you
Mainly
to do it
because
again.
he was doing untrustworthy shit and everyone in town knew it. His ego is in full-blown overdrive at this point. Sick of his conflicts with Congress and other officers, sick of his perceived lack of respect, sick of his money problems as his merchant business crumbled while getting wounded multiple times for his country. He was once again rage-quitting his commission. Jeez, there are some real red flags here, right? Like, we're all seeing this guy's tendency to quit when he doesn't get his way. Not a good look. Why should we be dealing with this guy at this point? We are clearly seeing the evolution of Anakin from Jedi to Sith in real time here. Arnold then gets command of West Point in August of 1780, arguably the most important fort in America, and he sees it as his exit strategy. The plan? Weaken the defenses, hand the fort over to the British, get paid, and switch sides officially. And what was the price tag? About 20,000 British pounds, plus a British general's commission.
So here we are. The reason, if we can analyze this here, the little exit strategy of Benedict. So it was just purely for financial gain, for another promotion, which would have a higher salary attached to it, a big payout, which might, kind of ease off the debt building temporarily. Okay, so it's purely financial. There wasn't any other bitterness or anything going on there, do you think? Now, he did mention he'd received numerous wounds fighting in service for his country. Was that something that Benedict Arnold felt a little bit bitter about? Like maybe he feels disrespected because, he's given the ultimate sacrifice. He's received all of these major injuries while fighting for his country, and he feels he's not being acknowledged enough for it. So would you say there's like that element of resentment there?
Everything was in motion until it wasn't. Long story short, John Andre got captured behind American lines. They found the documents and the entire plot got exposed. Arnold got the news just in time and did what he did best. He bolted and escaped to British lines. Homeboy left everything behind because of ego and pussy, which I'm not going to judge because the majority of men in this world have made at least one stupid decision in their life involving ego and pussy. It just so happens that most men don't betray their countries. Usually it's just like quitting their jobs or something. And you have to think about George Washington here. The guy who went to bat for Arnold time after time after time, only to be given a very clear F you by Arnold.
I don't need friends. They disappoint me.
Benedict
Weird meme. Okay, so I got to a point halfway through this video up to now where I was starting to question how personal it was, the betrayal against George Washington, or is it more symbolic that him betraying the Continental Army was directly betraying George Washington himself? But there is a personal element going on here. So they are more friendly than just acquaintances at this point. Is that right?
Arnold brought the same aggressive energy to the British side as he did the American side. He was made a brigadier general, which, funny enough, was technically a demotion from his American rank. But as we know, the revolution was a success and the British were driven out of the American colonies.
So Benedict Arnold surely would have been aware that that was technically a demotion, as a step down. But maybe, did he say there was a lump sum of 20,000 British pounds? So maybe it was that need for a big lump sum of cash to pay off a significant amount of debt. And then we'll worry about the salary at a later time. Or he'll just constantly threaten to quit and hopefully they'll keep promoting him.
The thing with the British was they found Arnold to be useful, but they never really trusted him. You know, on account of him betraying his own country for money and all. And he would face the same issues of promotion with British military ranks as Washington did years earlier.
Of course, because now you have the added complication of the fact that you're not going much further. You're not climbing higher up because you're not from a noble, would you say noble, or you're not from like a more aristocratic family. And I know he's British American, but is it a case of the British Army looked at him as being American, and in which case they weren't going to promote him beyond a certain level? So, I mean, he should have taken that into consideration. I think he was just fixated on the lump sum of money.
Because at the end of the day, he would always just be an American to them, and they were going to prioritize some lord over him any day.
Of course,
in his exile in England, Arnold went really hard on advocating for a second invasion of the United States. Like, most of these British officers and the British public were over the whole thing, but Arnold was aggressively doubling down against his old country. It's like whenever you hear about somebody involved with religious extremism and come to find out they converted later on in life or were never particularly into their birth religion until later. Like, it's always those guys that showed up late to the party that get the craziest about it. While the people who have been doing it their whole lives are like, chill out, my guy, it's not that serious. Arnold went from being a member of the Sons of Liberty, the most anti-British organization, to becoming a British citizen who had a full bloodlust for the United States. Benedict Arnold rolls into England after the Revolution like a man expecting a hero's welcome, and instead gets the historical equivalent of a polite golf clap and a lot of side-eye. Sure, he'd help the British, but let's be real. This was the guy who had just sold out his own side. That's not exactly resume gold in a room full of aristocrats who value loyalty above everything. The British gave him a commission, nodded respectfully, and then quietly kept him at arm's length. Like, yeah, we appreciate it. Just maybe don't stand too close to the silverware.
Don't call us.
So Arnold tries to reinvent himself. Because if you can't be a war hero, you might as well be a businessman with a comeback arc. He bounces between England and Canada, getting involved in trade, privateering, and general money-making schemes. And just like in America, controversy follows him like a bad smell. Accusations of shady deals, disputes with partners, and a reputation that screams, oh, this guy again? He's got the drive, the ambition, and absolutely zero ability to avoid drama. It's like watching someone try to rebrand while actively making it worse. By the time Arnold settled more permanently in England, he was basically living the long, slow realization that he had bet on the wrong emotional outcome. He wanted respect, admiration, validation. What he got was suspicion, isolation, and a legacy that never quite shakes the word traitor.
And the nation that you switch sides to, a few hundred years later, not many of them actually know who you are.
When he died in 1801, He wasn't remembered as the fearless battlefield commander of Saratoga or the guy who nearly broke himself for the American cause. Instead, he became history's ultimate cautionary tale. The man who burned his reputation to the ground and then spent the rest of his life standing in the smoke, wondering why nobody wanted to come over and shake his hand. Please like, subscribe, comment, hit that notification button. If you really like this show, share it with your friends. Do not forget, I do exclusive episodes of Jack History on Pepperbox TV. You can also see these YouTube episodes a day earlier on Pepperbox TV. And we have a cooking show on Pepperbox TV that's separate from Jack History, but it's still about history. Peter's involved with it. Peter, do you like that cooking show? Yeah. Yeah, you do, Peter.
Yeah, you do.
I got nothing else to say. Let's just cut it here.
I love the little thumbnails that he pastes its face into. Oh my gosh. I just noticed as well that he's got a video there, like the history of slurs, like the history of swear words. I want to watch that. Oh my gosh. Interesting. It's quite fitting. It's quite a fitting fate for Benedict Arnold that most Brits don't actually know who he is. We might have heard the name being used by Americans or watching American-based TV, but we're not taught about him in school. We don't know who he is. We don't regard him as someone who, you know, came over to our side and gave his best effort. No. So, oh well, terrible fate. That's an interesting point. I don't know if anyone else has ever thought about this. Benedict Arnold sounds like he is a very abrasive character, going off accounts and, you know, just seems a bit more abrasive than a normal kind of angry young man. Has anyone ever questioned what his mental health was like at the time? Just a point of interest, not a justification for how he acted at all, but accounts of his personality. I don't know, the same things kind of keep jumping out, and I'm just wondering if he maybe sounds like a bit of a red flag for like a personality disorder or something like that. Does anyone else think? It's just me. Guys, thank you for watching along with me. Thank you, Joe Crazy, for requesting this video, my lovely. Thank you so much. So guys, take care of yourselves and I will see you next time. Bye bye.